All right. Yep. Okay, sounds good. So, welcome everyone to Skyward Sword. Uh, so the first thing you're going to notice right off the bat is that we are playing on a hero mode file. That allows us, first of all, to skip cutscenes, which saves like an hour, at least in any percent. Uh, and so, first thing I'm going to be doing here is talking to Fledge, and that is going to cause a log to come down in Farron Woods much later in the run. So... Okay.
Should it be good now?
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so some technical difficulties to start.
No problem.
But... Okay, so this part's about as normal. So the one other thing you're going to notice is this little stamina gauge that I have. Skyward Sword was the first Zelda game to introduce this stamina mechanic. And so for the speed run, what we try to do is stay on the last quarter of stamina as much as we can because it depletes far slower than the rest of the stamina meter. So we're going to try to use as much of our stamina as possible. Then we're going to let it refill to a quarter and rinse and repeat. There's also these stamina fruits around that we will also use that instantly refill our stamina. But now it's going to be time to activate the main glitch in Skyward Sword. So first of all, we're going to save. And I mean, there's a lot of dangerous things here around Skyloft, like these ledges you can fall off. So yeah, let me just climb back up here. I'm gonna grab this stamina fruit and... oh no, what's going on? And, yeah. So the other thing is this game is heavily motion control based. And, that's not quite what I intended to do. But yeah, that's... now you see the cutscene that happens when you fall off Skyloft. But yeah. Oh no, I died. This is bad. But, just kidding. So this is the main glitch of Skyward Sword. So when I respawn, I'm going to respawn with control of Link on the title screen. And so now we can do a lot of very interesting things here. So the very first thing that I'm going to do is actually bonk this tree here. So bonking this tree, for various complicated reasons, is going to cause the Academy gates to open. And now now I'm going to delete this file and then resave over it at the same time. And so now on file 3 I have what we call a corrupt file, and that file has all zeros on it, and that is going to come in very handy later. So now we're going to be heading into the goddess statue early, because on this particular version of Skyloft that the title screen plays on, the goddess statue is already open. So we can just waltz on in and grab the goddess sword, which allows us to skip the practice sword. And so what I did there is a technique called reverse bit magic. So I started my file just before the game registered that I actually got the goddess sword. So it doesn't look like anything changed right now, but I just need to reload the area for that change to actually take effect. So now that I entered this cutscene, that's going to force an area reload. And once the area reloads, I will have the goddess sword. So now you can see it on my back much earlier than intended. So now we're going to just basically do intended things for the next couple of minutes. We have to go rescue our Loftwing. So this would probably be a good time for donations if you have any.
Great. No donations as of yet, but I just want to remind people that we have a few incentives for the rest of the day. If you want to take a look at those, it's ! incentive. Save and Kill actually right now is tied at $1,056 to $1,056. So you know that definitely has to change. So if you want your animal saved or the animals killed, just make sure you note that in any donations that you give today. This run has been pretty wild so far, Link. Good luck with the rest of it.
Yep. So yeah, now we just start running through this waterfall cave area. There's nothing terribly special here. So yeah, I guess I'll also mention that, like, over the past month, there has been a ton of developments in this game. So the most efficient route of this game actually now beats the game without any B-wheel items. Unfortunately, I'm not terribly consistent with the tricks required for that, so I'm going to be doing the slightly older route that gets 3 B-wheel items, but I think it's also kind of does a bit more of a route that is going to seem familiar and easier to understand for people who have only played the game casually. So, but yeah, so now we're gonna break our Loftwing out. And now we're gonna enter the Loftwing tutorial, and we're gonna see this Loftwing tutorial several times. But here in this first version, like, basically all we can do to really speed it up is just advance the text correctly. And text in this game is interesting. It doesn't really work like it works in a lot of other Zelda games where you just mash the text as quick as you can, or do like press like A and B alternating. Here you have to hold the A button to advance the text faster, and then release and repress it at the very end to be able to actually dismiss the text box. So you actually have to time the text boxes in this game. Okay. We did not get to bonk Zelda in the Loftwing tutorial, which is just a little meme that we try to do here because there's not really much else to do. But yeah, so now we're gonna save and quit here. Now, ordinarily, what people would do is they would actually just continue here, and they would attempt a 2-frame side hop to skip the cutscene that's coming up. But that is not very marathon safe, so what we're going to do instead is use our corrupt file, which has 0 health. So Link is going to immediately forget his car keys and just fall over. and that lets us quickly activate back in time. So using back in time, we can get ourselves back over to the goddess statue, which now is our next destination. So we're also going to take a copy of our file at this point. And again, we're going to open the academy gates by bonking that tree. Or, well, I was supposed to select file 2 before I did that, so I'll just have to do this instead. Voiding out here is going to respawn Link up on this ledge that's past the gates. So here I'm going to be doing a trick, what's known as a reverse bit warp. So because of the fact that the file's saved at a prompt, all I have to do here is just enter the goddess statue, and like right after I start my file, and then I'll just have my file start here. And then I can just place the emerald tablet as normal. So yeah, so I talked a little bit about hero mode, the fact that it lets us skip cutscenes. It also causes us to take double damage, which for a run where we do want to be able to take lots of damage quickly is very useful. And finally, we're going to see in a little bit that hero mode also gives us an enhanced Skyward Strike. It actually is going to give us the Skyward Strike that you would have in normal mode when you get the Master Sword about 2/3 of the way through the game. Which is going to be very broken, and you're going to see that. So, okay, so now we're just doing a few normal things, so here's another good time for donations.
All right, thank you very much. How's everyone doing? Hope everyone's enjoying the run. Still nothing as of yet. We did just get a host from Trigirl. Thank you very much for that hosts and spreading the word at all counts. Every bit matters. And yeah, I'll touch back if anything changes.
Yep. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and grab this shield from Alan. It's just going to make some fights in Skyview Temple a little bit easier. One thing about shields is that so the way that you shield bash in this game and the way that you roll in this game are basically the same action. So I'm gonna not actually be wearing the shield most of the time because sometimes you can unintentionally shield bash when you intend to roll. So here coming up, I'm going to be doing some specific movement as I fly towards the Farron Pillar. And this is going to skip a Phi trigger that happens right when you get in front of this Farron Pillar. So I'm just going to dive manually, because otherwise Phi comes up and tells you, hey, you're right in front of a pillar, and then opens your map, and that's pretty slow. So now we're going to get this cutscene of Link diving down to the surface for the first time. So this is not the last time we will actually be seeing this cutscene, by the way. But yeah, so we're going to be landing in the Sealed Grounds region. There's not a whole lot to here, but I'm going to want to try to skip these Dekubabas. Okay, doing better than I was in practice last night. Okay. So by diving into the void there, we actually save a few frames over if we landed. So now we're going to intentionally take damage here on these falls. You may note that we skipped the wing ceremony, so we do not actually have the sailcloth. So I'm forced there to either take damage or run around the spiral. So I'm going to choose to take damage because once we get to Skyview Temple, I'm going to want to activate back in time again, and that is much faster if we have fewer hearts. So we have to Skyward Strike this evil aura to unlock the sealed temple so we can proceed. It's also going to cause these gust jets to rise, and it's going to play a funny animation when Link goes up them because Link doesn't actually have the sailcloth. So now Fi's explaining an ability called dowsing. We're going to tell Fi not to explain it to us, and then Fi's going to explain it to us anyways. We don't actually use dowsing at any point in this run. It's basically a mechanic where you can point your sword in a direction, and Fi will like help you look for Zelda or certain other things in the game. But since we already know where everything is in the speed run, the dowsing ability isn't that useful to us. But we in this route we're forced to get it. So now I'm going to be grabbing a revitalizing potion that's in here, which for this particular run is just a safety, but in actual any percent you would actually be using that potion at a specific time. So now Impa's going to be talking to us for quite a while. Eventually Impa's going to open our map and ask us to place a beacon. And Impa can be very picky about the location of this beacon. It basically needs to be up on the ledge outside, and the X that it puts on the map is a little bit misleading in that you really want it to be slightly to the right of where the game actually places the X. So Impa did accept that beacon, so we can actually continue. And then we will see why the empowered Skyward Strike is so broken. But first, that I believe is my first unintentional bonk of the run. So I'm going to be donating $1 for every unintentional bonk. So that is unintentional bonk number 1. So now we get this cutscene of the beacon that we placed. Fun fact, you can actually remove that beacon like before you actually go outside, and then the cutscene still plays as though the beacon's there, but you just see a cutscene of the sky. So yeah, the empowered Skyward Strike is pretty broken. So now we get to talk to this Goron here, who's going to tell us about these bird statues. So. Yeah, there's not a whole lot to talk about for the next couple minutes, so if there are any donations.
There are. Let me go ahead and start with donation from Cheese Reaver, $23.23. The message says, all the sevens were getting to me. We're now at, actually, let me read this next one from Hexadecibel, ESM, $7.88. Kill with duct tape. That's going towards kill the animals, which puts kill in the lead by $7.88. Our grand total is now $8,308.88. $580 until we hit the ultimate 8888.88. Thank you guys so much for those last few donations, and back to you, Link.
Yep. So now we're going to be heading into another Bokoblin fight here. We need to rescue this Kiwi named Machi, who's currently being bothered by these Bokoblins, but they're no match for us. Yeah, unfortunately, I think I hit the first one with the blade of my sword instead of the Skyward Strike, so I had to also do a final blow on it. But yeah, so this Kiwi is still going to be scared of us. So we're going to have to chase it and scare it several more times until it stops being scared of us, because that totally makes sense. And yeah, Fi does tend to interrupt you a lot in this game. It tends to get better as the game goes on, but especially in these early parts of the game. So now Fi is just gonna, or Machi is gonna be hiding behind these mushrooms, and we're going to just bonk the mushrooms to scare Machi, and Machi's going to run to another mushroom. We're also going to be looking to bonk this wall over here in a very specific place, and that's going to knock this vine down early. That's going to allow us to move through this area much more efficiently. We're going to be able to skip a part of it. So you'll also notice that, like, when I'm going into cutscene triggers, I'm going to be trying to use up the last of my stamina going into the cutscene trigger, which is just a minor optimization. You also see me rolling a lot. Rolling is the fastest form of movement. It is on average 1 frame faster than sprinting. So for going a short distance in relatively unimpeded areas, I guess, it winds up being slightly faster than just sprinting. But for longer distances, you just want to sprint because rolling does take up more stamina. So now it's a little interesting with the stamina here. I'm actually going to want to just walk normally and refill a bunch of my stamina, because there's gonna be a tightrope coming up, and I want to have as much stamina as possible for that tightrope. There are these morphs that are on the tightrope, and I want to be sprinting here so that I can knock them off of me. Because otherwise they will knock me off the tightrope, and that loses a ton of time. So now we have to rescue 3 more Kiwis. Unfortunately, I did that Skyward Strike a little too close to those Bokoblins. So there is a frame-perfect trick where you can bonk this tree before this cutscene, but it doesn't actually wind up saving any time, because you wind up still having to watch both these cutscenes anyways. Also, there are a bunch of treasure drops there, which in a speedrun is a little bit unfortunate because we don't actually need any of them, and they waste a ton of time if you accidentally pick them up, because it will open your menu and then it will show the number incrementing. But luckily they're far enough out of the way that I shouldn't actually run into them. So this rope is or this vine rather, is a little bit interesting. Like it's sometimes a little difficult to get it swinging the right direction or just to grab in the first place. So the next Kikwi that we're going to be rescuing here is underneath a bunch of grass. So we're going to want to cut that grass carefully in a specific way. So I want to basically do 2 Skyward Strikes to clear this grass out. And unfortunately, I messed up the trick, so you can see the Erla moving here. If I had done the first grass cut correctly, then Erla would have just stayed in place. But that only wasted a couple of seconds. Okay, and then there's one more Kikwi that we need to run around and rescue, but there's not a whole lot happening here, so again, time for donations.
Nothing yet has come in, but I see a few people talking about saving and killing the animals. Again, kill has just recently surpassed save. It's at $1,087 to $1,056, and that incentive will come into effect at 3:05 for the 3:05 p.m. Eastern run of Beeps' Super Metroid Low Percent X Ice. And it will also come into effect directly following that run, Threg versus Swap Space doing Super Metroid random percent. The random percent incentive is currently leading $272 for 95 to 134%, to $8 for 20 to 59%. So pretty cool so far, and that's basically it. So back to you.
I actually have one more if you guys don't mind real quick.
Oh yeah, go for it.
So we've been raising money over on the All Kids Deserve to Eat merch store. I just linked that over in the chat. The thing is that was going to end at some point tomorrow. We are actually extending that shop all the way to Wednesday now. So if you guys want to throw in some merch donations, I mean, they're limited editions. So once that store closes, it's closed. You won't be able to get them anymore. $5 of every purchase, and that is including if you get 2 shirts, that means $10 that you're throwing towards the charity. And that's all counted up after the fact, just because that's how we have to do it. We can't count it during the marathon. Right now, that merch store has raised $55. So let's see what you guys can keep raising from that.
Awesome. Thank you, Sineth. I'm also wearing my shirt right now, and I will say it's super high quality. I love it. All right, back to you, Link.
Yep. So yeah, you saw me do a side hop off the Kikwi Elder that picked up the slingshot, so that saves a few frames. So we need to get the slingshot in order to progress to the Deep Woods area. We also need to get the slingshot in order to get any other B-wheel items, because getting the slingshot unlocks the B-wheel. And if we tried to get any of the other items without getting the slingshot, then the game would literally just soft lock right there with Link holding the item above his head. So, Deep Woods, there's some interesting tricks. There's a RNG dependent trick that I'm going to be attempting here called Extending Blow. It has even if you do it correctly, it has a 25% chance of working depending on the Bokoblin RNG. But it saves a ton of time if you actually get it. So first I'm going to be stunning this Bokoblin here so that he doesn't alert the other Bokoblin that's down here. And then this is the Bokoblin I'm going to be attempting to do Extending Blow on. And unfortunately I failed it. If I had succeeded, I would have gotten teleported basically right in front of the temple, but unfortunately it didn't work out this time, so we're going to be doing the backup called Cube Orb. So I'm gonna hope that this Bokoblin's in a favorable position, which looks like you will be. Okay, I'm gonna reset this because it can be a little bit awkward. Okay, got it on the second try. So that goddess cube is the only goddess cube in the game that has a cutscene attached to it. So we basically just use that Bokoblin to angle our Skyward Strike upward so it would hit the cube. Which saves having to go all the way around this Deep Woods region. And there I was able to skip a Phi trigger by doing a very precise jump slash. And now you can see my wonderful NA aim as I try to go or enter the Skyview Temple. So, I mentioned that we're going to be activating back in time pretty much immediately as we enter this dungeon. And this is going to allow us to skip a very significant portion of this dungeon. So, we're going to alert this Keese over here and just let this Keese hit us, so that we can die and then activate back in time. So when I'm activating back in time here, what I'm doing is I'm hitting the continue option on the game over screen and I'm simultaneously pressing the reset button. There's about a 1 second window in most areas to be able to do that. So we're going to delete the corrupt file because we don't actually need it anymore, and it will speed up a file copy we're going to do in a bit. So now we're going to be doing basically the same thing, bonking the tree and running up here. And what we're going to be doing is something called the bit warp. You saw the reverse bit warp into the goddess statue earlier, but this is a regular bit warp. So what I'm going to be doing is starting and saving my file at the same time, and I'm going to apply the coordinates that I saved out on Skyloft to Skyview Temple. And so that teleported me very deep in this dungeon. Like, you can see the boss door ahead of me. But this room isn't fully loaded, so I'm going to need to go through a door transition to fully load the room. And so I'm just going to go through here, I'm going to fight this Staldra, and then I'll be able to reload that room properly. I'm also going to break these boards, and I'm going to be doing a couple of seemingly odd things while I'm in Skyview, but there is a purpose to it. It's going to be for later back in times to make things a little bit faster. Now we're going to be trying to skip this spider, because ordinarily you need the beetle. So I'm going to be trying to do a safer version of this skip, just because the skip that people will actually do in speedruns, if you screw it up, you can actually die here, and that wastes a lot of time. Because at this point, if I were to die, I would respawn all the way at the start of the dungeon and have to do the bit warp over again, which is pretty slow. So now I'm going to safety save here, just so that if I were to die unintentionally here, I would just respawn at that statue instead of the beginning of the dungeon. Just for marathon safety. So now we're going to be fighting the mini-boss of this dungeon, which is a Stalfos. So the strat here is basically to slash and then spin attack. And I was trying to backflip there and messed up the backflip, so that's an unintentional death, unfortunately. But fortunately, I had saved there, so I can just restart at this statue instead of all the way at the start of the dungeon. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to hit this crystal again to reopen the room. So that's gonna waste a little bit of time. Okay. Yeah, you can also see how powerful the shield bash is, because when I timed that shield bash correctly there, I stunned that Stalfos for pretty much forever. Or, I mean, it's like probably a solid second that, or maybe even 2 seconds of a stun that you get from shield bashing most enemies. So yeah, as I said, like, the shield is pretty powerful in this game, but it has the drawback of the fact that you can accidentally pull it out when you mean to roll. I'm gonna be canceling, so I just got the item called the Beetle, which is a kind of cool item in this game. You can basically fly it areas, you can use it to pick up items, you get some upgrades for it normally. So here, these keys are getting in my way. I wanna, well actually I want this guy to hit me a couple times, because I want to still be at 2 hearts. Okay, he's being a little bit slow, and that was a bit scary, to be honest, but now I'm gonna kill this Bokoblin, because I'm gonna be using the Beetle up here, and if he decides to aggro onto me while I'm using the Beetle, it's pretty bad news. So again, I'm gonna be doing something that doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. I'm just grabbing this rupee. I don't actually need rupees for anything, but what I do need is for the game to know that I picked up that rupee. So I'm gonna be trying to do some careful movement here. That may or may not have worked. So ideally what happens there is I save there before the game registers that Bokoblin has fallen into the void. And so now I'm going to be copying file 1 to file 3. And that's going to be useful because file 3, with all of the strange things I did, has some pretty important properties now. So now that I've done that, I'm going to just get the boss key as normal. These vines coming up in this rope can be a little bit tricky. They move in a very unintuitive way. But we can make it pretty easily, and you can actually also make it back from the boss key on this pair of vines. I thought I was gonna grab that second vine there, but I guess the game had other ideas. But just proving my point that these vines are like probably one of the most confusing things for new runners, and just in general, like This is one place that's very easy to just lose a lot of time. Yeah, like I'm being a little bit, trying to be a little bit careful with that, and I just wound up swinging at a really bad angle there and wasn't really able to quite get the lineup I wanted. That should be good. Yeah, okay. Or actually, before I place that one, I do hear the Bokoblin, so I think I actually did succeed. Actually, I'm going to also put this on. Okay. Now, the boss keys in this game are these motion control puzzles. We have a wrist motion for every single one of them. That one just didn't quite want to go in, but I was eventually able to get it in there. So now we're going to be fighting our first boss, Geary. So Girium's first phase, I think, is kind of infamous. So he's going to be holding his hand out. And I want to just do a spin attack followed by a stab. Ideally. And then his second phase, he can either charge at me, teleport behind me, or give me darts. The dart attack I do not want because it basically just wastes time. The best attack is the one where he, or there's an attack where he just opens up immediately, which is the attack that you actually want. And then the second best is this teleport attack. But unfortunately, what attacks he gives you is basically just RNG for the most part.
Hey Link, whenever you are ready.
Yeah, okay, there's not much going on, so yeah, if you have something.
Yeah, so I want to first off welcome in Priz 1508 and their raiding party of 6. Thank you so much for that raid, giving us the attention for All Kids Deserve to Eat. This is the charity marathon day 2, and you know, if you don't know what is happening here, let me get that up here for you. This is a All Kids Deserve to Eat strives to improve and sustain the quality of life for students across America. Specific objectives is to make direct relief efforts to schools across America for purpose of alleviating lunch debt accrued by students throughout their educational careers. And basically what's happened is we have partnered up with a specific school over in Ralston, Nebraska, Wilderwood Elementary. The average school debt there is $42 per kid. The total school debt is $13,000. That's the goal that we're trying to reach right now. We're currently at $8,308.88. We have a couple of incentives going on right now for those of you who are trying to keep up. We do have a Save and Kill the Animals incentive. Save the Animals is currently at $1,056. Kill the Animals is at $1,087. So that incentive could go either way before the Super Metroid race that's going to be happening a little bit later today. We also have unlocked a day 3 of All Kids Deserve to Eat, which we will be talking about when we get that a little bit more planned as far as when that will be happening. But we have an extended we have extended the marathon schedule due to different donation incentives being met. So yeah, that's a lot of things that have happened, and we have a couple of chat challenges. 64-bit Link is donating $1 for every unintentional bonk. What's the number on that bonk count right now?
I believe it's still at 1.
We're still at 1. Okay, are we doing any kind of unintended death incentives as well?
I can add the unintended death to that as well, so that'll just put it at 2.
All right, so we have a count of 2 for unattended deaths and bonks. If any of you guys would like to match that at the end of the run, that would be more than enough help. We're looking to raise another $120 to get to the 200 kids fed out of 308, and we're also looking to get about another $580 to get us to the magical number of $8,888.88. So let's see if we can get there, guys.
Hey, Syneth, may I?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I wanted to talk a little bit more about what Syneth just talked about in regards to a day 3 being unlocked. We reached an incentive for Celeste Side A being completed in its entirety. So we thought, why not? Let's just open up an entirely new day. We're going to have, it's already on the schedule. Looks to be set and ready to go at 8 a.m. on July 21st. That's a Tuesday of this upcoming week. We're going to be starting off at 8 a.m. with the Syneth versus myself Celeste Side A. It's going to be a continuation of what happens tonight. We're going to be doing about 3 hours tonight of Celeste, and then on Tuesday, July 21st for day 3, we're going to be starting off with Celeste for probably, I mean, it could be anywhere from 10 hours above, who knows. But then following that run, we're going to end off the marathon, day 3, completely with a Retrofile TV Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide randomizer. So just those 2 things on the final day 3. And yeah, pretty exciting. So I hope you guys are super, super hyped for that. It's going to be interesting to watch. And yeah, appreciate all the support and the love. And hello, welcome. Thank you so much for the host, Eden. And I'm going to send it back to Link.
Yeah, okay, so now that we completed Skyview, we got the Ruby tablet, so we're going to be attempting to place it here in back in time. So it's going to be kind of similar to what I did at the start of the run with the Goddess Sword. So I did a couple of very specific things here. I wanted to collect a rupee with File 1 to load File 1's inventory, and that includes the Ruby tablet. And then I checked that statue with File 3, which is going to cause the pedestal here in the Goddess statue to raise automatically once we press the A button here. So what we're going to be doing here is a trick called reverse bit magic again. And I'm going to be starting my file just before the game sets the value in memory saying that we have unlocked this pillar. And so this reverse bit magic is a relatively new trick. It was discovered last year. So you can see that pillar in the background there. And you also notice that we didn't place it on File 1. We started File 2. And that's going to be for a very important reason. So now we're going to start up File 3 again, just because it's our fastest way of activating back in time. And you're going to see when I turn around that this Bokoblin's actually still here. The one that... So we were able to successfully save before the game registered that Bokoblin voided out. And then he can just stomp on us, and that will cause us to die, which means that we can activate back in time. So... up to now, we have been confined to Skyloft as far as back in time is concerned. But with this activation back in time, that is about to change. So here, we're going to actually leave Skyloft on the title screen. So we're first going to save file 2 here. That's going to load the ability for us to call our loft wing. And then we're going to dive off of this platform here. And so I said that we would be seeing the Loftwing tutorial again, and this is it. So we're now in the Loftwing tutorial, because this is the only layer of the sky that does not crash in back in time. And it just so happens that the Elden Pillar is within the range of the Loftwing tutorial, so we can literally just fly down to it. Which works out very fortunately, because right now we don't actually have the ability to dive normally. And so this is, because File 2 has never actually been to the surface, because we copied it right after the Loftwing tutorial, it's going to play the cutscene of us going down to the surface for the first time. And this is going to actually not put us into Elden, it's going to put us into Farron Woods, or the Farron region of the game. So that's important because we're going to actually take advantage of this to set some different coordinates for our main file. Whoops. Okay, so now we're going to do a save here on file 1. So that's going to set file 1's coordinates to the coordinates of this statue. And now we're going to go back up to the sky with file 2. And now, so in back in time, now the game kind of thinks that file 2 has already been to the surface. So this is going to allow us to actually go and dive into the real Elden Pillar. So now we're spawning from a little bit further away because we're actually... So what happened there is we came out of the Farron Pillar and then the game teleported us to within the bounds of the Loftwing tutorial, because you're not supposed to be able to leave this small area during the Loftwing tutorial. Hopefully that wasn't early. Okay, that seems good. And now this is going to spawn us in Elden out of bounds. So this is going to allow us to skip a huge portion of Elden. So we're going to skip all the magma conversations. We're going to skip the digging mitts that you would ordinarily get when you play this casually. And so we're just going to be we're going to be basically going up this out of bounds collision for a while. The one thing to note here is that there's certain like semi-steep parts of this where it's actually faster to walk than to sprint, which is kind of interesting. And then this one section here is semi-difficult. But, okay, we got past the difficult part of it. I was doing a technique there called stutter sprinting, where I just repeatedly tap the A button, and that allows you to conserve a little bit more stamina. So now we're right in front of the Earth Temple. And if you play this game casually, you'll know that you're supposed to go hunt around for 5 pieces of a key to open that door, but as you can imagine, we have a faster way of dealing with that. So we're going to be activating back in time and doing another instance of RBM. And this instance of RBM is going to be a little bit different than what we've done before. Because the past couple of times when we've done RBM, it's done something that has made sense. Like when we RBM'd the Goddess Sword, we got the Goddess Sword. When we RBM'd the Elden Pillar, we got the Elden Pillar. This one's going to be a little bit different. So first of all, we need to make it nighttime. And so the fastest way to do that is to go all the way over here to... This is the item seller's house. And in this game, you're allowed to sleep in whatever bed you want. So, Link's just going to sleep in the item seller's bed here to make it nighttime. And now, it's very important. We're going to be leaving this house on our early game file. Basically because in order for the game to not crash, we need to load nighttime on the right layer. So now that we're on an early game layer, we can do that. And now we're going to push... okay, I failed that. I was supposed to push that gravestone, but apparently Link didn't actually want to push the gravestone. So unfortunately, we're going to have to redo that. So... good time for donations, because I'm going to be doing literally the same thing over again.
Perfect. All right. So I want to point out a couple donations that we've received. First, I want to thank Eden for the host. We had a $21.01 donation to Save These Animals, and that was from Chris, 1508. Then we got a $3 donation from Eden. Save the animals, you're not winning this. Kill. So let me update that real quick to see what we're at. We are at 1,091 for kill and 1,077 for save. This is an incredibly close race between these two incentives. And again, this will come into effect during Beep's Super Metroid Low Ice X% run at 3:05 p.m. today. So this is going to be... I honestly don't know how this is going to turn out. So this is going to be pretty crazy to keep an eye on. Also, we are now $84 away from reaching 200 kids' accounts completely wiped to zero. That is unbelievable. So at this school, there's 308 students, and they have an average of $42 per account. It goes as high as $2,000. And if you're asking how, probably has to deal with a family of students on the same account. It's pretty wild. But we're nearing 200 accounts completely cleared at this school, and that is super special. We're also 64% of the way to our goal. But yes, I'm seeing lots of team kills, team saves, and I hope you guys are super excited to continue the battle for save kill. And I'm going to kick it back over to Link, which, by the way, you're doing a great job of describing and explaining a lot of these tricks because there's so much that's going on. It's very helpful, so thank you. Enjoy the rest of the run.
Yeah. So I was trying to do a camera manipulation there to so that those platforms would be on a favorable cycle, but unfortunately I wound up failing it because the keys decided to interfere, and that the keys in here are somewhat RNG. I'm also going to be cutting this rope here, and with the beetle, it is possible to cut that without the beetle, but it requires a really specific trick there. And there I was able to skip the cutscene of the drawbridge lowering all the way by doing a hop in the air at a pretty precise time. I'm gonna get this Elizabeth out of the way. Yeah, so now I'm going to knock this boulder loose, and now we're going to be doing another instance of Back in Time, which is going to skip this boulder rolling section that's kind of the middle third of this dungeon. It just happens to be most convenient to start this trick now. And so to describe what I did previously, when I pushed the gravestone there, it set the flag in the Elden region for the Earth Temple door being opened. And then that just so... And it happens that the cutscene trigger corresponding to that happens to cover where I saved. So I was basically instantly teleported into that cutscene. So here, I'm going to want to be very careful not to go advance off the splash screen, because I actually want the game to be in a beginning game state with no story flags set. So I'm going to use this Wii Motion Plus tutorial menu that you've probably never noticed before to allow me to press the A button without actually advancing off the splash screen. Unfortunately, I didn't quite get the jump the way I wanted, so I didn't quite skip the gates. I can't bonk the tree like I normally would, because that would require actually opening the file select screen, which I am intentionally trying to avoid here. So now I'm going to enter the academy. And I'm going to be talking to Pippet here. And then Pippet's text here is going to correspond to the bridge being raised in Earth Temple. And so the way that it works is that the scene flags in this game are divided up by area, but the game kind of has a copy of the scene flags for the current area that it always has loaded. So by starting the file and then doing some environment change, we're able to apply it to this currently loaded scene flag section, and as a result, we can cause it to happen on a different map. Also, hilarious Link not getting blown up by the explosion cutscene there. So I want to hit one of these Lizalfos with a slingshot pellet. So that's going to skip the initial cutscene here. So these Lizalfos, like, if the fight goes wrong, they can be kind of annoying, but they're not that difficult. You just want to slash them to get them to guard and then spin attack in the opposite direction of their guard. So for doing that, we get the bomb bag, which is going to be very useful for the boss of this dungeon. And so now, basically, with what the game's saying right now is that this is Led's bomb bag, this magma over here. But then we're gonna get Led to just give it to us. Because the game's suggesting, we can ask him to borrow it, but then he's just gonna let us keep it because we're Link. And then he's also gonna... Even though he lost his bomb bag, he's still somehow going to give us 5 bombs to start out with. And now, we're going to just do a death warp here. And the reason is because the bridge cutscene is not actually going to take... Or the bridge raising is not actually going to take effect until we reload the area. So now you can see that this bridge has been raised. This skips a fairly long section where you have to roll that boulder through a corridor that's kind of annoying, and so we can skip right to the back of this dungeon. So now we're going to climb up these slopes. This first slope is pretty much the same as you would do casually, but then the second slope, there's a puzzle you're supposed to do where you go to this side area and blow up these rocks here, but we're not going to do that. We're instead going to kind of line up here, let these boulders roll past us, and then the boulders aren't going to respawn, and we can just stutter sprint up and barely make it up this slope. So yeah, you can see the boss door there. So now we're just gonna run over and get the boss key. And the music is going to fade out very ominously. So now we're gonna have this Indiana Jones segment where we have to run from this boulder that's chasing us. And then this boulder is going to go right into the dragon's mouth. So we're gonna just safety save there, and then so a lot of these boss key puzzles like gave me a bit of trouble when I was playing casually, but again, there's basic wrist motions for all of them that solve them really quickly. So Scaldera's an interesting boss. A lot of Skyward Sword runners dislike this boss because he can be a bit RNG with where his eye decides to move. So, I mean, he's almost kind of the Phantoon of Skyward Sword, but not quite. So I'm gonna just fill up my bombs here. And then I'm gonna just front hop into this Phi trigger just because that uses less stamina than rolling. So one interesting thing is that although cutscenes normally refill your stamina, Phi text does not. And I think it's because if that happened, you could just call Phi to refill your stamina, and the game devs didn't want that. So now Girahim's mad at us because he didn't manage to kill us in Skyview. So
May I jump in real quick?
Yep.
We just got, real quick, let me talk about Eden with a $20 donation. Changed my mind. Save the animals. That's really funny. And then we had a donation from Michael W. 1980, $13.37. We need to feed the kids, kill the animals. Our current save kill incentive is $1,101 for save animals and $1,102 for kill animals. Literally a $1 difference. But just a few moments ago, we had a $250 donation from Tig. Thank you so much, Tig, for the donation. Very much appreciate that. Let me update the kids fed here. That was truly a wonderful donation. You are gonna make a difference, and I really appreciate that. So I'm gonna throw it back over to Link, and I'm gonna update the document or the restream here.
Okay, so I'm gonna intentionally take damage there. Just because after this fight, I'm gonna want to be back down at 2 hearts. And there I was able to get a Skyward Strike directly on his eye before he opened his mouth. There's like a very small window where his eye is actually vulnerable to a Skyward Strike. So that wasn't the best Scaldera fight. that I've ever had, but it went okay enough. 4 cycles. We're going to go ahead and skip this heart container. Because we don't need it. And then, the door to leave this room is on a cycle. So, we do have some time to pick up a couple bombs, and, we actually want to damage ourselves once here. If I did this right... Okay, I unfortunately missed the cycle. I could have picked up one more bomb, but not a big deal. So, yeah, we get the amber tablet for that. So yeah, now we're gonna just place the Lanayru pillar normally. The Elden pillar, it was faster to place them back in time and reverse bit warping just because of the fact that it happened to be within the bounds of the Loftwing tutorial, but for the Lanayru pillar, it's a little different. It just winds up being faster to fly up here normally. Yeah, so now, yeah, so we're just going to be placing this normally. So, yeah, if there are any more donations, now would be a good time. So we're going to get a slightly glitched out cutscene there because we never actually placed the Ruby tablet on this file. So yeah, so here we're going to want to dive off of a very specific platform here. And so basically the reason that we're doing this is just because it winds up actually being the fastest way to Lanayru. In very old versions of any percent, like, you would actually dive off the upper platform next to the goddess statue, but the reason that you did it in that case was to avoid a cutscene, but because we never placed the Ruby tablet, that cutscene just never spawned, so it's actually faster for us to go walk or run all the way through Skyloft to that platform. So the category here that we're doing is Harp percent. So we're going through to the last region that we're going to be in, and so the Harp, normally you have to do all this stuff in Lanayru to get to the Harp. Go through the mines, go through the desert, get Hook Beetle, go through the Temple of Time area, raise the Lanayru mining facility, go through the Lanayru mining facility, and beat that whole dungeon. But we're coming up to our estimate, so that kind of clues you in that something a little bit interesting is going to happen here. So we're going to head into Back in Time. And so there's this side quest in the game with a character named Betro. And so Betro is going to help us save a ton of time in Lanayru. So this is where a lot of the stuff that I did in Skyview is going to actually come into play, because Betro's house is just going to be unlocked for us immediately. Normally you'd have to do some stuff to gain access to it. Now, one of the unfortunate things about using a Skyview file is that there's this temp flag set for early life tree seedling that if we activate it by facing our camera the wrong way, then it will cause a cutscene that will soft lock us, but we don't really have to worry about that in this. So we've got this very spooky sounding splash screen here. So yeah, now Betro's gonna talk forever. But basically, this is gonna set a very important value in the Lanayru Desert area. So again, I'm going to start my file just as I clear the last text box. I should also mention, because I've been playing on the Japanese version, and the reason is because not only is just Japanese text in general faster, but the text also scrolls significantly faster on the Japanese version than the English version. And there you saw me shoot the eye there with the slingshot, and that's because of the way that I was talking about earlier about how the game kind of copies the scene flags for the current area. We actually needed to copy the flags back after we make a change, and so by just making some other change in the area, then we can do that. And so now we're going to land, and we're going to see this bird statue that we never actually visited here. And so that is actually going to put us inside the Temple of Time area that you're not supposed to be able to get to before clearing the Lanayru mining facility. So now, all we have to do is just trigger the Harp cutscene by entering and then leaving the Lanayru mining facility. And time.
GG.
Yeah, so it looks like 117.38, which is not bad for...
Yeah, nicely done.
Yeah. So yeah, this is definitely a really fun game to speedrun. Certainly, there's a lot to learn about how Back in Time and Reverse Bit Magic works, but but it's also not that technically difficult, so in that sense it's a really fun game to get into. So if you'd want to get into this game, I'd highly recommend it. And yeah, so if you're interested in this game, if you go to zeldaspeedruns.com, there's a link to all the Zelda Discords, and the Skyward Sword Discord should be in there.
Awesome, appreciate that. We are going to be setting up for a 4-way Super Mario Odyssey race between the runners Spike, Vegeta, Lusteris, Pita, and Snaj. It's going to be commentated by Eden8 and Tyron18. Estimate on that is about an hour 30. We also have some donation incentives, which I think maybe the commentators will speak to when the time comes. So we're going to go ahead and switch on over to the intermission screen and get things set up for that race. And Link, I'll let you say your goodbyes.
Yep, so yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Thanks everyone for donating. This is an awesome cause, and yeah. Look forward to the rest of this marathon.